Everyone, welcome to our third and final LTP forum. We're here this afternoon with Mia Sandra and Bruce Hinson, our infrastructure group manager. We've had a few questions come in about the LTP. We're going to answer those today, as well as kind of all the rating information about it and all the money stuff. So just a reminder, if you've got any last minute questions, we might not get time to answer them in this forum, but we will endeavour to get back to you. So email them through to Dana, dana.little@tcdc.govt.nz. And if you haven't yet made your submission, jump online to our website, tcdc.govt.nz/long-term plan 2021. Read the consultation document and then follow through and have your say. Click on make a submission and put in your thoughts. It's not too late. You've got until Monday afternoon to make your submission. So we do encourage you to get onto it and let us know what you think. So one of the really easy questions we've had come through is for people that are worried that they're not connected to any stormwater or wastewater services. Are they still paying for those services in their rates?
So that's a good question. Generally, with water supply and wastewater, if you're not connected to those services, you don't actually pay. Stormwater is a little bit different. Majority is paid for by people who are connected to stormwater, but there is a very small component of that which goes on the general rate across the whole district. But that's fairly minor. Majority of it is for people who are serviced, who are receiving those services. They will pay the cost for them.
So we've actually got, as you said, Natasha, we've got quite a range of questions, and what it means is that people have actually picked up on a lot of the things that are in the long-term plan and a lot of the things that we've discussed online already. So Bruce, the next question, I'll take this one if you like, and that it says, could you please discuss whether a targeted rate of $150 per annum proposed by the Matarangi Ratepayers Association is likely to be included in the LTP? No, well actually we can't discuss it, we're just here to clarify facts. So the key thing is this, regardless of what's in the LTP, so there is an option that Council's chosen around Matarangi, anyone can put in a submission making a suggestion around any other sort of a proposal. So we have to give a starting line, that's a requirement from the Audit Office, but any other variation on the theme can be submitted to Council through the submission process. And I heartily recommend that you ask to be heard, and those will all be considered. So we can't discuss, just generally toss around whether there's a likelihood or not. That's not our role and function here right now. It's just to clarify questions, and we just ask you all to put in submissions, make your views known. That's really important to us. So there you go. You can have the next one.
Oh,
what total rates are collected from each town in the district? Well, actually, no. I'll do this one if you like. So for the rating proposed rates for each town in the district, or each ward, I should say, for Coromandel, what rates, and so actually that's
6 million.
Okay, so that's 6 million. So I was having a little bit of trouble working it out because we're only just starting to look at these ourselves, the actual answers to these questions that you put through. So 6 million, I'm just going to give you the round figure. 6 million for Coromandel, 30 million for Mercury Bay, 15 for Tairua Pawanui, Thames 16, Whangamata 19. That's a rounded figure. And so the total rate take is about 90 million. You know, that's, yeah, I'm not going to give any more figures than that. It's just to give you a bit of an idea.
Yeah, there's a round figures. That's really good, Mia Sandra. The other stuff that is on top of that, just give you one more figure, is about $2 million on water by metre charges. So obviously that's spread across those 3 townships that have water by metre, which is Thames, Coromandel and Pawanui. So, but yeah, there's some round figures so people can get a bit of a picture of things.
So I'm pretty sure that some of this will already be online for people. So the next question is that, given that borrowing is the cheapest it has ever been, why Council not considering increasing their borrowing? So Bruce, I'll let you get that one.
That's a good one. That is a good one. So
generous.
You're very generous. So generally TCDC only borrows to do capital projects. So that's where we're renewing infrastructure or building new things. We don't use borrowing to fund operational expenditure, which is generally funded from rates. And there's a number of reasons for that. Generally, the operational expenditure is what's happening now today. So you don't want to borrow and then spread that cost over 10 years or more. You want to pay for it today for the ratepayers and customers who are receiving the benefit today. But for big infrastructure, which might last between 30 and 100 years, like a new water treatment plant or something like that, you want to spread that cost over a longer period. So borrowing is the way we do that. And we have some requirements around what the audit office call a balanced budget, and that's where we've just got it's pretty basic really. It's just balancing income with what we're doing at expenditure. So rather than going and borrowing tons and tons of money, that's going to start tipping us kind of out of balance a little bit, because we're going to have this huge borrowing and we're only going to have a certain amount of money we're bringing in, and so the income and expenditure is potentially not going to balance. So yeah, council works very hard to try and keep those things balanced. There's a lot more to it. I've skimmed over it. There's a lot more information in our financial strategy, which is available online, as Mayor Sandra mentioned. So yeah, if you're really into the accounting side of things and you want to get into that, have a look on our financial strategy online. And
we have a borrowing limit that council set. So there is reference to the capital from Power New Zealand share that sale, and the question is asking what is the sum now and how much interest is it earning? And the Power New Zealand share reserve is currently at 24.7 million, and that's used to fund internal borrowing, and that's on page 26 of the consultation document. So along with a further explanation of the internal borrowing, and the annual interest forecast to be earned on the Power New Zealand reserve for the 21-22 year is approximately 950,000. So this is used to reduce borrowing, which basically is reducing rates. And there's a question over that, whether that's really a good thing to do. There would be a suggestion that it's not, that you're better to actually not keep borrowing against that capital and to try and grow that capital while you have it. So that's a whole other conversation. So you're going to talk about the projected average rates increase?
Yes, I can do that. Yep. So there's some questions where people are trying to get their heads around, understand where we talk about revenue being budgeted at 100 million and expenditure is at 99 million. So that links back a little bit to what I was talking about before. But the key point I think to mention is that the 100 million of revenue that we have per year includes a number of subsidies and third-party costs, includes development contributions, which is the money that developers will pay when they develop sections. Each section pays a development contribution, which helps fund infrastructure and provides their spot in the system effectively. So yeah, so that explains a little bit about why those numbers might be slightly different.
So going on to the next question is 25 of the revenue is used to fund the council. What percentage of revenue and other councils are spent on the same item? So that exercise hasn't been completed, so we'll work on that. So sometimes it takes longer to answer some of these questions, and we'll work on that and make sure there is an answer to come back to you. So I'll move on to the next question. That it is suggested that an additional 1 million would cost the ratepayers of the district about $4.30 per annum. So that for every $1 million increase, it's $4.30 per rate per annum. And can we extrapolate that number to apply if council borrow an additional 20 million? That might mean an additional $86 per annum per ratepayer. And so that's something that it's a question that's been answered basically. I'll leave you for the next question. We're on to Kay.
Yes, we are. So we're looking at whether we make big changes to policies and things, and we obviously take into account a range of factors council does when we assess fees and charges, and a lot of questions have come about. Some of our fees and charges have been proposed to go up quite a lot, and some are proposed to stay around about the same. And so I guess if you're looking at that, you might say, why are they not all going up the same percentage? The challenge is that the cost of delivering services varies quite a lot across different activities. So staff do quite a lot of work in this space, looking at the costs. And as you know, at home, different things will go up at different rates. The price of food might go up faster than the price of petrol. And similarly with council, we build a lot of infrastructure. Prices of steel and wood has gone up significantly and moving up continually, as people will know. So that does push our costs up a lot. So different services will go up at different rates, and that's why you'll see fees and charges changing at different increments rather than them all being the same percentage increase.
And there has been a correction on page 14, which refers to building consents for over 500,000 as an hourly rate of 4,600. That's not, it's meant to be a consent rate, so not an hourly rate, and that's been amended. So there's a question being asked about what is behind the changes in development contributions, and
I can answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, shall I jump in there?
Oh, you can. I was going to answer it.
Oh, yeah,
That's
okay,
right. You can do that. No. I love this. I love this rather informal interaction, and I defer to you.
Okay, very good. Okay, so I better do a good job now. I've stolen your answer. So development contributions, and I touched on this before, comes about from what we need to spend on capital expenditure. So when we have a subdivision happens and they create a number of lots, they might create 20 new lots. Those lots, we need to be able to provide water supply for them. We need to be able to treat their wastewater. We need to be able to provide roading infrastructure, parks and reserves.
Well, that's only if it's within.
Yeah, within our serviced areas, correct.
That's right.
Yeah, correct. So, yeah, so water and wastewater is only if you're connected to those services. So, yeah, good point of clarification. Thank you. So what that means is that when we look at our 10 years and even our 30-year projections of what projects we need to build in to deal with these new properties, those projects are actually then broken down to a per rating unit, and then the amount that they cost per rating unit goes onto the development contributions. So that's how those development contributions numbers are built up. They're not just a number that's dreamt up. They're based on providing all the services that we need to provide for those ratepayers into the future.
Or the additional pressure on existing services that council provides. And this has also given rise to the water issue, or should I say the drought issue, has given rise to further discussions around moratorium in areas outside the main centres, or what else? You mentioned something, or even the extent around development contributions where we want to encourage development, even waiving development contributions. Hauraki District Council have looked at doing the same themselves, because there are certain places where we're absolutely desperate for housing, and Thames is one of those. So I'll just move on to the next question, and that's what's the likelihood of a public transport bus between Coromandel Town and Thames? Well, we actually can't discuss that. So we can't discuss the likelihood of that. This is where it's really important that people put in submissions to that. And we've talked about public transport before. And so this is the opportunity now that if you think that it's an important matter for you and that's something you'd like to see happen within the district, you have to think about what you might be prepared to spend in your rates and what you would expect everybody else to pay in your rates to provide that service. So it's an interesting one, but you need to put submissions in around that subject. We can't discuss that on a long-term plan online forum. And so what work is planned for to make Canterford's ferry ramp access compliant under health and safety? Well, the access is challenging due to its location, and there have been some improvements made. But again, if you want to see changes there to Hannaford's Wharf, you need to make submissions to the long-term plan. We can't sit here and discuss what's going to happen potentially, because we need to have those submissions. We've got to have that discussion with you, our ratepayers, as a result of your submissions, and around the table with the councillors, and then with all those facts in hand and with all that information in hand, then our deliberations is where we make our decisions.
Very good.
And can I just add there too, and it's the same for Furies Creek, for those people that are wanting to see some action around Furies Creek. Again, put in submissions to the long-term plan, specify what you want to have happen, what dollars you expect to have spent, and that's when that triggers the discussion and then the deliberations where decisions are made. And just remember, every time you ask for dollars, it is going to be prioritised according to need, but the arguments will depend on a lot on what comes through in the submissions.
Very true. Yep. Next question we've got here, there was another one about the Matarangi land purchase proposal, and it was around even if council does own that land, that doesn't protect it, protect the land for against future uses. So I guess at this stage, it's only a proposal, and if that one does go through the process, as Sandra's outlined the process around hearings and deliberations, if that does go through, it would be protected at that stage. So council would take those steps to protect that land for the future, and there's a number of options to consider around ways to do that. So obviously that would be done if that was taken forwards.
So again, for Matarangi, whatever proposal council's put up, and people need to put submissions in, the audit office requires that we have an option. That's not necessarily the option that will be chosen at the end of the day. So people need to make submissions and can put in a submission with any variation on the theme. So if it's well thought out, well justified, that's something that is, and you can ask to be heard so that you can actually add to your debate through the collective listening of the councillors, and then council deliberates on it and comes to a decision in regard to that. So I just encourage people once again, particularly on seriously big issues such as this, which affect such a small community. Mind you, there is a district component in this as well. Do make a submission.
Yeah, very good point.
Tairua, we're now on to Tairua.
Yes, Tairua. Should I talk about Tairua?
Yeah. Okay.
So Tairua, one of the questions we had was around the Ocean Beach Road curb and channeling, and this is it's an interesting question because as everyone will know, the way that a lot of our townships have grown over the years of the peninsula, a lot of them were pretty basic, I'd say, the way the roads were built. And they often didn't have curb and channeling or footpaths, and then obviously we get more people living in these areas. People expect to have a good level of service. We have stormwater that we need to control, which runs off properties onto the road. So yeah, the Ocean Beach Road curb and channeling project is in the must-do list, and it's something that the Tairua Paonui Community Board have been pretty keen on seeing get done. So that's a $301,000 project that needs to be done in that area, and that does transfer through to a cost of around about $7.60 per ratepayer in Tairua Paonui Ward over about a 10-year period. So that's a good question, and hopefully that answers that one. Another question that's come through also from Tairua is around a library extension at the library in Tairua. That was about $450,000, I think, for that. That one's in the nice to have list, so that's not in the must do's, or not proposed at this stage in the must do's. And equally, that one's about $11.50 per ratepayer per year over the 10 years to pay for that work to be done. So that just gives you a bit of an idea of a couple of projects in Tairua. So
that's around about a total of $19 per ratepayer in Tairua.
And Paonui.
Yeah, in Tairua and Paonui. So that's $19 for those two projects in Tairua, which is the Ocean Beach curb and channeling and the Manaia Road Library extension. So, yeah.
Yeah, so and we do get questions about with Paonui and Tairua, if a project's just happening in Tairua, does Paonui pay for it as well? So if it's a local project, Tairua and Paonui is one area of local rates that pay for things like local roading, such as those curb and channel projects, parks and reserves, public toilets, those kind of things.
Okay, and so we go on to the next one, which is the greenhouse gas reduction plan, and that's the development of that plan sits within the council activity, and all of the information in regard to the work that's being done on that will filter through to our website as the work is done, and so those inventories and things will be there, and that's our next step, is to actually develop a carbon emissions roadmap for TCDC. But as I say, as each step is undertaken, that information will be put on our website. And is there a report? Well, there's actually a report that's currently being prepared, and that will be for the 4th of May council meeting, with potentially, because some of these things can take longer than expected. So that's what we're aiming for. And is there a budget attached to this plan? We've got 50,000 in this financial year. And is there a forward budget in the LTP for greenhouse gas reduction projects? And at this stage, no. Actions will be funded from activity budget. So So if it's something to do with roading, it will come from within that budget, etc. If it's within water, it'll come from within that. So which now brings us into solid waste.
I'll jump in with the solid waste.
Before you do, can I just say that, you know, even though we've all got this growing awareness of what we do in terms of solid waste, you know, the rubbish that we each produce, in spite of our knowledge and all our best intentions, our rubbish mountain is still growing exponentially. Our costs are increasing because for some reason, in spite of all this knowledge and whatever recycling is available, whatever measures we take, we're still putting more rubbish out there than ever before. So I just thought I'd mention that. Bruce, now over to you.
Sandra's right. Our volumes are continuing to go up, and that's not unique just for our district. This is happening across all of the country and possibly all of the world, actually. So even though we're aware of it, we're still struggling to kind of bring those volumes down, because that's what we really want to do, and we need to do that. So, so the question around this was really around the costs and why are the costs going up? So there's a number of reasons. Obviously, we just touched on generation of more waste, which costs more money to transport, more money to dispose at the landfill. But we've also got other things that add to our costs. There's things like the emissions trading scheme. So those costs, they go up from time to time. They currently sits at $25 per tonne. It has to be paid at the landfill for emissions trading scheme. There's also the Ministry for the Environment Waste Levy. So that's another charge that goes on per tonne. There's increases in operational contract costs, you know, fuel costs are going up, labour costs are going up, all those things go up, and over time they just continually keep adding costs to the activity. So, you know, costs are rising across New Zealand and across the world for solid waste, and I think most people know that, so I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But yeah, so it is around just making sure we're balancing out those budgets and we're bringing in enough money to pay to do all the things that we need to do.
And yeah, so, well, the next question, actually, could you please advise what the council's levels of service regarding waste minimisation after the LTP and how these vary to the previous LTP? So,
well, I can touch on that a little bit.
We're trying to, so
we've struggled in the last 3-year period, in the last LTP, with our targets for waste reduction. So we obviously set a number of targets.
Well, we can't, because we're relying on the public to do their bit.
Well,
so
exactly.
we can't reduce the waste physically. So I mean, it's up to each household. So if each household's not going to reduce their waste, well, it's an impossible target for us. So forget it. We're just going to have to deal with the volumes that you keep sending us. And the timeframes, we're trying to streamline the timeframes to save a little in that service, to save in one aspect while we're having increased cost in another. And so streamlining a couple of our transfer stations is one of the things we're looking at. Dealing with the Molochs is another. But to incentivise recycling and recovery, what are we doing there? Anything?
Yeah, so we do a lot of education programs where we try and work with communities and with schools to try and improve that. Making sure the fees and charges are set at the right amount, that incentivises people to take a more ownership and responsibility for their waste generation. You know, if we, you know, for example, if we made it free or very cheap to dispose at the transfer station, our volumes would jump exponentially, I'm sure. So, you know, as humans, we need a bit of compulsion to make us do things. So, so yes, it's trying to set them at the right level to incentivise the right behaviours and save costs and save environmental impact from all of us. So it is a challenge.
But if you incentivise them to take things to transfer stations and to rubbish dumps, whatever you call them these days, and so it is transfer stations. By reducing the charges there, it just increases the charges for ratepayers generally.
Exactly.
And so I was interested to note that I think Auckland is now fining people up to the tune of $30,000 for fly tipping. And I think that's somewhere that we need to be looking at in this district. If anybody is caught or their rubbish can be traced back to them, and we have a massive fine for doing that. And I think that would send a great signal to all those people that think they can just dump it over the bank in a remote area somewhere. And it's our own Kiwis that are doing it.
Yeah, that is a challenge, and we often get people say, you know, if you put your fees and charges up or your bag charges up, you're going to encourage more fly tipping and more dumping off the, you know, off banks on remote roads. Well, you know, potentially that could happen. I guess the challenge is, and the sad thing about it is that even when fees and charges were very low, you know, 20, 30 years ago, we've always experienced that fly tipping. And so I think, you know, picking up on Mayor Sandra's point, it's something that we do take seriously, and we possibly need to ramp that up a little bit more, you know, because we've got people that are not being mindful and not being responsible of what they're doing with their waste, and that has an impact on all of us.
And so we go on to the next one, which is, have you had enough rubbish?
I've spoken enough rubbish today. Yeah.
So the next heading here is the Thames Sub-Regional Aquatic Facility. Now, it is a Thames Ward project. Make that absolutely clear. It's called a Thames Sub-Regional Aquatic Facility to source additional funding from outside the Thames Ward and outside of the district, I should actually say. And so the consultation document notes that it is protected from flooding and inundation, and there is some data around that. And it just takes into account some of the negative commentary that's being put out there by some people. So we'll use an adaptive pathways approach that will consider the life of the asset and the uncertainty and appropriate triggers for initiating action. And the geotechnical report on the Keith Park Memorial Airfield South site is available on the council's council's website. And it's dated August 2018. So the hazard maps, as identified above, have been provided to the Shoreline Management Plan Committee, and no further hazard analysis has been provided to council. So we're just putting that out there about the Thames Sub-Regional Aquatic Facility. And this facility also incorporates a much more expanded and relocated set of sporting activities such as rugby and netball and soccer and the like, who are absolutely crying out for that relocation to that site. They can't wait. So we're quite excited by that. Rhodes Park has been a fantastic facility, but of course that's been clearly identified and has consistently been a flood-prone area.
Yeah, that's a good point, because if you look at the stop banks that are around these areas, obviously the Waikato Regional Council manage the stop banks, so they look after those. Rhodes Park is not protected by a stop bank at the moment, and so as Mayor Sandra mentioned, it has been inundated with floodwater in the past a number of times, whereas the airfield and the land further to the south, including where we're looking at for the new aquatic centre and potential relocation of Rhodes Park, is currently protected by the Regional Council flood banks, stop banks. So yeah, those are generally built to a 100-year level of protection. Now over time they'll need to go up, they'll need to be changed, but that's something the Regional Council manages and looks after. That's not something that the TCDC does.
No, and so again, it's about people putting in submissions to the long-term plan around the Thames Sub-Regional Aquatic Facility, and we do have to honour the in good faith discussions we've had with Ngāti Maru about relocating the pool from their land. And so we're really grateful to them for their patience and forbearance, because this is taking some time to work through. And there's also a project for the renewal of the Monetary Coastal Protection seawall. That's in the long-term plan as well, as part of the infrastructure strategy. And so there is a report done by Tonkin and Taylor. We don't have to identify all the details here, but that is available online, is it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to know about those things, most things are online, and I'm sure that if you're asking about that level of detail, that you'll be more than competent to be able to go and look that up online. Can I just say to people that if you really want to be ahead of the game in terms of what's happening at council in your area in particular, but generally across the district, do subscribe to our email database. I was at a ratepayers meeting at Cook's Beach, in actual fact, and asked the question, and people haven't actually thought about it. We can't put you on our mailing list, you actually have to subscribe. And so the more we have, the better. So, for instance, we had one community where we scouted around, and that was for Thorntons Bay and Naremu Bay. We got just about the email address for every single person in that bay. We can now directly engage with them online about anything that affects their area. And so hugely advantageous for us and for them, because it means that we aren't going to leave them out of the loop. It's a fantastic opportunity. So please do subscribe to our email database so that you can catch up with whatever's happening. You don't have to always read it, but you might see a flag that affects your area, and then you know all about it. So that would be marvellous. We'd love it if you did that.
Yes, going off that, if you haven't subscribed and you're thinking, oh, maybe I should, tcdc.govt.nz/subscribe. Jump online there. It allows you to put in your email address. You can also select, I see it's on the screen there, what you do want to hear from us about and what you don't. And that's a really good way to stay on top of what's happening at council. The other thing that you can do is, if you know how to use Facebook, jump onto Facebook, find us, Thames Coromandel District Council, give us a like, give us a follow. People that are already connected to our Facebook will know we post a lot there, so it's another way to stay really well on top of things that we're doing at council. So thanks, Bruce and Sandra, for answering our questions today. You made my job really easy.
Hang on, aren't we meant to be going until 3 o'clock? Or is it 2 o'clock? My clock,
Well,
I haven't adjusted my clock. Are we finishing half an hour early?
I mean, we can stay here for another hour and a half if you want.
No.
No, we'll finish early then. We'll let you all get on with your days. As we mentioned at the start, the consultation is open until Monday the 12th of April. So you've got about the weekend plus a few days. So jump online, tcdc.govt.nz/long-term plan 2021. Get on there and put in your submissions. The consultation document is also on there. You can read the whole thing, as long as a list for all the fees and charges and more. Some of the more in-depth detail that we've gone through today, it's all online there. If you've got any questions, you can email them through to us, dana.little@tcdc.govt.nz, or else you can flick them through to us as a message through Facebook. Or any really urgent things, you can email our customer services team or give them a call. All that detail is also all online at our long-term plan website. So I guess we'll leave it there for today, and we'll let you all get on with your days. I'm sure you both have other things you can be doing.
Plenty to do. There's always plenty to do, right, Ruth?
Yeah.
Lots on. Yeah.
Just remember, everything you want comes at a cost.
Yes. And I think another thing to mention quickly before we all let you go, that you mentioned before, is nothing is set in stone. Council's got their preferred option, but it's your submissions that will matter at the end of the day, I guess. So make sure you do get online and make your submission.
And can I just add to that too, Natasha? People have said to me, you know, what's the point of making a submission? Nothing ever changes. Well, it does, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to change the position in regard to your particular submission, but it does get things discussed. It does get things put on the table, and it is important. No submission is wasted, regardless of what the decision is at the end of it. No submission is wasted. Everybody's submission is taken into account, is considered. We read them, and I just commend anybody that does take the time, in spite of not necessarily being successful with submissions in the past. It is an important part of our democratic process. You have a voice. This is one of those opportunities where you can get to use it. Please do.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, everyone, for jumping on and listening today. We hope that answered some of the questions that you've got.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, Bruce.